Welcome to the Cotton Club Radio. I'm your host, Cotton Club. Tonight's conversation, family, is going to be called Conspiracy to Rewrite Black American History. You heard what I said. The conspiracy to rewrite Black American history, family. You know, I'm looking on the internet and I'm seeing a lot of conversation going on. And I'm starting to see a consistency of something that 10 years ago wasn't questionable. But for some strange reason, the conversation about who built America is starting to seem like it's up for grabs. Now you're starting to see more immigrants start saying things like immigrants built America. You know what, family? Let's talk about it. I want to talk about that, family. Immigrants built America. What does that actually even mean? Because from what I know, and I've only got 20 years of studying Black history. From what I know, only one group of people was enslaved in this country, family. And that's Black Americans, foundational Black Americans. Everybody else came to this country willing, ready for opportunity, for economic opportunity, for freedoms, etc. They came to this country for citizenship. They came to this country looking for prosperity. Everybody else came to this country looking for all of that. My ancestors built this country. They didn't come to this country for no opportunity. They created the opportunities. So let's talk about it, family. Did immigrants build America? Did they? And what immigrants are they talking about? Because I'm curious. I'm curious. When immigrants built America, what immigrants? Did the Chinese built America? Let's talk about it. Well, we look at the evidence of the Chinese coming in to expand some of the railroads from 1869 to about 1890. They expanded some of the railroads going into the Midwest. It's said to be about maybe about 30 miles out. Okay. Look at the timeline. The Chinese were contracted workers, paid workers to come in and expand the railroads into the West. 1869 to about 1890. Family, the country was already built, stabilized, and a working economic powerhouse by that time. So no, we can X the Chinese off. They didn't build America. Let's move on. Who's next? Let's talk about the Irish. The Irish came in as peasants during about the 1820s. They came in, many of them sneaking on the boat docks, hiding in the interior of ships, hungry, starving, coming into the Americas as indentured servants, working their ways up to be the overseers on plantations. Many of the Irish, when they first came here, were clowned, disrespected, treated lower than, not even considered white. Many of them worked on plantations side by side by Black Americans for a little while. And so they got their freedom dues. And what did they do, family? They got their guns, they got their land, and they moved the hell out of Dodge. And the first thing they did was do anti-Black racism when the first opportunity came. And they sided with their oppressors and amalgamated themselves into white supremacy, family. The Irish, that's what they did. Yes. And when they was overseers on those plantations our ancestors was on, what were they doing, family? They were doing nefarious activities to foundational Black American women. They were the police. Right? When it was said to be that we couldn't be in crowds of 3 or 4 or 5 people on a plantation, the Irish overseers would come and break us up. Our people were passed on when we would have little ceremonies for our people. We couldn't be in more than 6 or 7 people. The Irish overseers would come when we were mourning our people who were passed. They would come and break us up. When our children were being taken away from our FBA women on those plantations, it would be the Irish that would be the transporters to take them to another plantation. The Irish were one of the most biggest backstabbers to the Black American community. When we were in New York building Seneca Village, some Irish lived among us, and we treated them well. But the moment they got an opportunity, they joined the police in New York City and started over-policing Black neighborhoods. They didn't build America. There's no record of it. Let's talk more. Who else? The Italians? Did they build America? Most Italians came during Ellis Island. When was that, family? About 1895? We already had a civil war. The country was already a powerhouse. Washington, D.C. was already built. The country was already moving toward an industrial revolution. The Italians brought criminal enterprise to the United States. They brought what we would call later organized crime. Newspaper articles in the early 19th century, 1930, 1940s, say that the Italians were lowlifes. They said that the Italians were criminals. They said that the Italians couldn't be trusted. They said that the Italians were misfits and gangsters who operated on the underworld and could never be classified as white. But the moment the Italians was given opportunity to mobilize into whiteness, what did they do? They amalgamated into whiteness and affiliated themselves with the mafia and distributed mass amounts of drugs into the Black community. They took over our numbers. They bought out our clubs. A lot of people don't know that the Cotton Club originally was owned by Jack Johnson, the boxer. And it was bought out by the Italians, who, what did they do? They combined their anti-Black racism and became agents of chaos. Many of them started working with the government to displace our communities, working for the CIA. The Italians were some of the most biggest turncoats to the Black community, family. Biggest. And yet they get glorified the most by the Black community. Let's talk about that prohibition where the Italians started to rise, selling bootleg alcohol and getting into those massacres, what they call Valentine's Day massacres. That's where the concept of Valentine's Day came from. But they would massacre an entire group of people standing in front of a club. They just drive by and blow and just delete everybody. This is what the Italians were doing, family. They weren't building anything. They were too busy destroying things. Yeah, they were creating revenue for themselves. They were creating criminal enterprise for themselves. They were doing crony capitalism for themselves, buying out political candidates for themselves, mobilizing economically for themselves. But they weren't building America. America was already built before they even came to Ellis Island. So no, the Italians didn't build America. So who do we have next, family, as we continue to delete? Who do we? Caribbeans? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Most Caribbeans started coming during the 60s, family, after our civil rights movement. 90% of Caribbean people in America right now came after the 1960s, after our civil rights movement. America was already built. Black Americans were already fighting for our rights and our liberties, and we were gaining freedoms and prosperity. Black Wall Street was already created. You understand? There were already dozens of Black millionaires, notable icons, Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, MLK, the list continues. Frederick Douglass had already been gone 100 years. Family, America was already a working, running machine. The Black American did that. And what did they do? Many of those Caribbean immigrants, they came in off the back of the Civil Rights Movement and brought in their disdain, their hate, and their xenophobia toward Black Americans. And what are those newspaper articles in the 60s with many Caribbean immigrants talking about Black Americans? They're talking down on us in those articles in the 60s, saying that they didn't want to call themselves Black. They didn't want to call themselves American. That they would do anything to hold on to their Caribbean identity. And they did that. I don't fault them for that. But don't hate on us when we do the same. You understand? Now that Black Americans are starting to say, you know what? Everybody's looking toward their individual identities. Why don't we? Caribbeans didn't build America. Who's next, family? The Latinos? Can we talk about them? Most of the Latinos, let's talk about the Mexicans for a second. Mexicans were very instrumental building Mexico. We give them that. They had slaves to build Mexico. Vicente Guerrero, a half Black, half Mexican, became the president of Mexico. He abolished slavery, family. I respect Vicente Guerrero for abolishing slavery. He did that in 1829. Family, by 1831, he was deleted. It didn't last long. Majority of Mexicans didn't want him to end slavery. They deleted him. They got him out of the paint. So Mexicans have had a long history of anti-Black racism. They came to the Americas, and during the Civil Rights Movement, they created LULAC, which was an organization for Mexican Americans. And the first thing they did was fight for Mexicans to be white, for Latinos to be classified as white. And they're on the record being oppositional toward the Black American Civil Rights movement, saying that those Negroes can hold their own nuts. So while the Mexicans were fighting to be white, Black Americans were fighting for the rights of everyone. They didn't build America. America was already built. Who else, family? Who are these immigrants who built America? Family, did the Puerto Ricans do it? Most of the Puerto Ricans came in the 1980s. Some of them came in the 40s and 50s, but majority of them started coming in the 80s. And they came into our communities with their Latin ego, with that head Negro in charge energy, anti-Black. And when they started to hear what we were doing in those parks with those jams, and they started seeing Black FBA women out there looking scrumptious, and they started seeing FBA brothers out there looking stylish, flashy, wearing our clothes a certain kind of way, our swag a certain kind of way, partying, getting down, James Brown, all of that. They came outside. They wanted to see what was going on. They put the salsa to the side and said, Mommy, Daddy, turn that down. The Negroes are outside dancing and having a good time. I want to go see what they're doing. So they went out to the park jams and started crowding around us while we was breakdancing and doing our thing. And they learned. They watched. They were the first students. And they saw hip-hop unfold. Now they're saying they created it. They didn't build America. Who's next? Family, I hope you understand where I'm going with this. Because when you say things, when people say things, You need a resume to back you up. Let's talk about the Black American's resume, shall we? All of the infrastructure in America was built by us. All of the railroads in the South, many to the North, were built by us. Stocks, commerce, Wall Street, built by us. American culture, built by us. Music, entertainment, built by us. English vernacular, changed by us. The way people walk, talk, think, move, built by us. Infrastructure in New York, Seneca Village, built by us. The South economy that funded America in those northern cities, built by us. Even funded Great Britain and made them a powerhouse. Cotton is king is what they used to say. Family, when we start to peel the onion back, only one group of people built this country, family, and it's documented. Let's talk about those people. We have the eve of the Civil War, 1861. 4 million FBAs are in bondage. 500,000 FBAs are considered free people of color. Those free people of color were ambitious people, mathematicians, they were architects, they were preachers, they were salesmen. They were the people who ultimately created Black Wall Street. They were many of the people who YTs envied because they were savvy and they understood things. Many of their family members were in bondage. Many of their parents were former slaves. They understood YT very well, but they also understood that Reconstruction granted them new opportunities and that they had to take our fate and move it in a direction for the future. And that's where you started to see Tulsa, Oklahoma start to rise. You started to see cities just like that in South Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, and all of these other places, Rosewood, etc. You started to see these cities booming. A lot of these cities were founded by free people of color and during Reconstruction. So we got to pay respect to free people of color, who were they were amalgamation of a lot of different people. See, free people of color consisted of multiple different groups. You had American Indians who were not on reservations, who were classified as Black. If you looked at them, they looked like me. So YT said, you're people of color. So they were amalgamated in those communities. You had former slaves who came off those plantations. Many of them many of them were mixed. Many of them, look like me. Many of them look like many of you. You had Creoles, people who, many of them could pass for YT. But if you said they was YT, they'd cuss you out and tell you how Black they was. This represented free people of color. So we have to understand, family, that free people of color and those on the plantations were amalgamated. They were one and the same, and they were family. And they loved and appreciated each other, and they helped each other move each other forward. Had it not been for those free people of color helping to build Black America and build America during Reconstruction, many of us wouldn't be where we are today. Then moving on. Then you have the Black codes, which basically took everything that Reconstruction did to help us move forward and eviscerated us and moved us into what? Segregation. And moved us 20 years backwards. So now we're dealing with family. We're dealing with people who act like they don't know Black history, act like they don't know American history. And we're dealing with an immigrant takeover, the rewriting of history, where now immigrants have positioned themselves into position of power, and now they're trying to just basically cross our name out and put their name down. And we ain't having it. Hell no. You know what, family? Is it our fault too? Can we take some responsibility? It wasn't intentional, but it was kind of our fault because we accepted Pan-Africanism. And we didn't understand the ramifications of what that was actually doing and what those in power would use and utilize that against us and what that would do to us later. We thought that all black people with melanin could come together and unite against white supremacy. We were delusional. But we had good intentions. I would say this, we were ahead of our time. Now everybody else is, now everybody wants to be Pan-Africanist. Just like now everybody want to be black. Nobody wanted to be black when we were saying we black. Nobody wanted to be Pan-Africanist when we were Pan-Africanist. Nobody wanted to do that shit. Nobody wanted to do it, family. We were ahead of our time. We understood the bigger picture. We understood that if we are going to fight against white supremacy, and we see them all clicked up, we see what they did with the Berlin Conference, how they carved up Africa, they came together. The French didn't like the Germans didn't like the Russians didn't like the Americans didn't like the Australians didn't like the Italians, but they agreed to one thing: none of them liked us. And because we were in the belly of the beast, we took a little bit of that idea. We said, okay, well, we don't really gotta like each other, but we gotta represent for each other and we gotta ride for each other. We can't just let these people click up against us. We got to come together, black people. So when we saw Jamaicans, we said, what's up, brother? When we saw Dominicans, we said, what's up, brother? When we saw brothers from the Caribbean, we saw the Haitians, we said, yo, what's up? I say, what's up, brother? And they looked at us like, what's wrong with this dude? What are you talking about, brother? I ain't his brother. That ain't my brother. Who you? We were ahead of our time, family. Now that we let that Pan-Africanism wither to the wayside and fall to the ash can of history, now everybody's Pan-Africanist. Oh, why these FBAs? They're divisive. Why they talking like that? They saying they not African. What's wrong with them? How can you say that? You're African. But years ago, Africans were saying we weren't Africans. When we were saying, yo, man, I took an ancestry test, B. Yeah. And yo, I got like 25% Guinea. I got 3% Ethiopian. I got, 65% Nigerian. What's up, brother? They was like, yeah, but you're not African, no. You're not African. You ain't no real African. Then we said, you know what? I've been thinking about what you said about me not being a real African. And maybe you had a point. I ain't African. Now everybody's like, no. You were African, but not like me, but you got something going on there. You're black like me. These people are contradictory and hypocritical in the way that they think. They can't think straight. You understand? Now that we've progressed and evolved out of Pan-Africanism, because we had to evolve, we had to go through it to understand it was useless, to evolve out of that, to become something great, something that we can understand, that we always knew because they reminded us about it. When they would call us Yankees, we didn't like that crap because that was divisive. That was divisive. We didn't understand. We didn't use that term. We knew it was divisive, but black Americans are built different, man. We know how to take things at the jaw and still not hate you. We knew they was acting phony. We knew they was acting weird. We knew they was corny for being divisive, but we never called them divisive because that term is corny. Yeah, we saying it now because they're using it against us, so we got to use terms that's familiarized. But when they were doing it toward us, we never looked at it that way. We just thought these niggas are crazy. They saying they not black. They, you know what I'm saying? These dudes is black. They bugging. We thought they was just bugging. We thought that they were just some self-hated Negroes. We get those occasionally. But all in all, when the smoke clears, family, And everybody's talking about they built America now. Everybody. Everybody built America now. The Indians are saying they built America. The Haitians are saying they built America. Everybody but us. And we're the only documented people who did it. I want to say this, family. People were playing games. They're playing games, playing mind games, acting real slow. And one thing about me, family, I don't like slow stuff. For people who are normal, acting slow, I just don't have patience for it. I'm tired of people acting like they don't know what a ethnogenesis is. That one, and there's Google. So ignorant isn't bliss. None of us should be comfortable in ignorance. You have Google. That's the modern day equalizer. If anything you don't know, go to Google and you can know it right on the spot. But I'm tired of people acting like they don't know what an ethnogenesis is, family. When Black Americans say we had an ethnogenesis and became a people in this country, everyone acts like they don't know what that means. Grab Google, type in ethnogenesis. It's when a certain group of people with shared culture, shared value, shared language, shared experience become together in space and time. And that's what we did, family. And I love it and respect it because it made us great. It made us foundational to this country. It made us build. It made us sing in our sorrow. It gave us gospel music. Gospel music was just some Negroes on the plantation who were working themselves to the bone and singing to help pass the time. And to sing into disguise, their feet and their ankles and their legs was burning because they've been standing up all day. Their hands were brittled because they was picking cotton all day. And if you people know what cotton feels like, cotton is actually, before it turns into what you think cotton, it's actually, the plant is actually prickly. You know, you when you touch it, it prickle you. They were doing that all day, weeks, months, years. So they were singing as a way of as a coping mechanism. That became gospel music, then became blues, jazz, then rock and roll, then soul, then hip hop. Not only did we build the country, we built all of the other infrastructures, insurance companies. We were the first to be insured. If something happened to me and I was on a plantation, I had to be insured. Okay? Insurance claims. Okay? You look at some of those other industries, food industries. How many Negroes have you seen on the cover of a food package? Remember the Aunt Jemima? They put a mammy on a syrup bottle. Uncle Ben's rice. Huh? Putting Negroes on food. We were the first people to have our image represented on food, family. Wasn't no Mexican on Uncle Ben's rice. Wasn't no Puerto Rican on Aunt Your Mammy. You understand what I'm saying, family? It wasn't an Irish on Aunt Your Mammy. That was us. And you're not going to rewrite our history. We're going to keep it plain and funky. And we're going to tell it the way it happened. And we're not going to keep hiding things. We're not going to keep doing that. Because what they said, family, was done in the dark will eventually come to the light. So all these immigrants get putting themselves in position of power and trying to rewrite our history, trying to talk down and shame this delineation movement. It's only giving me more ammunition to represent for my people, to represent for y'all. Because I'm not letting that slide, bruh. I always think back to the conversation I had with my grandmother. I came over one time, and I told this story before, but I'm going to tell it to y'all. I came over one time to my grandmama's house, and she had just finished baking banana pudding. My grandmama used to make some real phenomenal banana pudding. And she used to love to watch me eat it too. I eat it. And she just look at me because my face used to light up, and she knew it was good. We started chopping it up. We started having a conversation, me and my grandmother. Give you some context, at this time, I'm like 25. So, I'm not a Pan-Africanist, but most of us come from a Pan-Africanist mindset. I'm from the Africa mindset at this time, about 25. And I'm talking to my grandmother. We having a conversation. My grandmother stopped mid-conversation and looked me dead in my eyes and right in my face. And she put her hand on my shoulder. And she said, "Boy, you strong. You got that Cherokee blood running through your veins." I looked at my grandmother in her face and stopped mid-conversation. I just looked at her like, whoa, why would she say that? And she just looked at me and smiled. She saw something in me. My grandmama is from Mississippi. She carries a Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee line. You understand? And my grandmother saw that in me. She didn't say nothing about African. She didn't say, "You look like an African warrior." She didn't say that. She said, "I look strong because I got Cherokee blood running through my veins." My grandmama seen a lot growing up in Mississippi. I say that to say, family, our elders know who we are. We got deterred. We forgot who we were. And now we coming back to it. And we know who we are now, and we represent, and don't let these people shame you. I don't give a dang what they talking about. You are not divisive. You ain't doing nothing different than none of these people been doing. They all been waving their flag proudly. They all been representing where they from. I live in New York. I've been to Juve. I've seen all the beauty the Caribbean has to present, but I'm not Caribbean, and I can appreciate the Caribbean. All the flags, all the colors, all the carnival, beautiful. Why can I appreciate them and they can't appreciate me? When I say, yes, I'm Black American, foundational Black American. My ancestors built this country. Why can't that be appreciated? Why they got to steal that from me? Why they got to take that from us? That's ours. That's our inheritance. We inherit that claim. And I ain't giving it away, family. I'm not giving it away.
King, love, let your angels sing. I ain't twisted, this ain't the Henny talking for me. This is literally Malcolm Little talking through me. I ain't possessed, this is just when spirit meets the flesh, and a revolutionary is born, nothing less. It's hard for me to cope with stress, especially when I see the world much different from the rest. I can't sleep, nightmares, waking up cold sweat, wondering if I ever made it, will they do me like the rest? For my black souls who really do upset the rest, so they wander through my dreams. Please tell me what this means.
Glove Radio.